Welcome back, dear friends, to another exciting episode of the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah. We are on part 16, part 2. And without any further ado, dear friends, we'll have our opening prayer. Thank you so much.
Tu nombre es mi curación, oh mi Dios, y el recuerdo de ti es mi remedio. La proximidad a ti es mi esperanza, y el amor por ti es mi compañero. Tu misericordia hacia mí es mi curación y mi socorro, tanto en este mundo como en el venidero. Tú verdaderamente eres el todo generoso, el omnisciente, el sapientísimo. Baha'u'llah.
Beautiful, Doug. Thank you so much. Very great. So, dear friends, we are now going to get back into our study of the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah. And if you're like, Ehsan, what is the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah? I'm just starting off this study right now. So the Dispensation is one of the letters that we find in the World Order of Baha'u'llah, right? And so this is in the World Order of Baha'u'llah. It starts on page 97 of the World Order of Baha'u'llah, and it is written, obviously, by the beloved guardian. And this letter was written February 8th, 1934. Okay? All right. So, dear friends, we're going to get back into it. We're on paragraph 58, which is, if you have this edition, which is the World Order of Baha'u'llah Selected Letters, it's on page 124, okay? Page 124 is paragraph 58. It starts, where else if not in the Kitab Iran, okay? So on page 124, okay? So that's where we are. Okay, I'm now going to share my screen with all of my dear friends so everyone can see. Here we go. So to recap where we were last time, and it was several weeks ago, and I apologize, I was sick, so I wasn't with you guys. But in our last study, if you recall, we were talking about the incredibleness of where the blessed Bab proclaimed himself. I am the promised one, right? And this was an incredible proclamation, right? So this is right here. He says, I am the promised one. I am the one whose name you have for 1,000 years invoked, at whose mention you have risen, whose advent you have longed to witness, and the hour of whose revelation you have prayed God to hasten. Verily, I say it is incumbent upon the peoples of both the East and the West to obey my word and to pledge allegiance to my person. And we talked about the occasion of where this happened, right? The Blessed Bab was on trial. And I'm going to send to the class the script of and recording of that trial. It's actually online, and it's an incredible, from multiple accounts, that trial of the Bab has been translated into English. And so the words that the accusators accusing the Blessed Bab of being a false prophet, a false teacher, and what the Blessed Bab said and did during this per se mock trial. It was really a mock trial to defame him. How was the I am pronounced in Farsi? I am no Farsi scholar, but good question. I do not know. Maybe I'm looking at the students in my class right now, and I don't see any of them being Farsi speaking students. So when I may ask my dad this question, and he'll give a very solid answer on that one. Okay, but great question. Okay, moving on. So let's go to our next slide. So in paragraph 58, this is really where we're the start of where all of this study is coming from. It says, where else, if not in the Kitab Iran, another mastery text that I encourage every one of you to pick up and study again and again. Right? So this is paragraph 58. So in paragraph 58, His Holiness Baha'u'llah is indicating that such audacity and daring cannot be manifested but through the power of divine revelation. Who else, think about it, who else at the age of 30 some odd years could go in front of a whole country and proclaim themselves the manifestation of God that they have been waiting for 1,000 years? You know, what a claim, what a claim. It is incredible and mind-blowing. Who else could be the source of such courage or the motivation behind such a claim? Do those hostile to the Bab accuse him of folly as they accuse the prophets of old? Or they maintain that his motive was none other than leadership and the acquisition of earthly riches? So this is a quote from His Holiness Baha'u'llah. Audacity and daring. Truly, every atom and molecule of the Blessed Bab's physical reality imbued with that most great spirit to animate him to go and open his mouth and proclaim, I am the promised one. What an incredible, incredible proclamation. Anyway, let us move. In the statement cited in paragraph 58 from the Kitab Iran, Baha'u'llah describes the abundance and rapidity with which the sacred verses were revealed by the Blessed Bab as another significant feature of his revelation. If you recall, we've already talked about the profuse revelation of Baha'u'llah, right? Now we're talking about the profuse revelation revealing of the Blessed Bab, the volume of the writings of the Bab and the speed at which he composed elaborate commentaries, prayers, and expositions with no premeditation. It's not like he stopped and thought, well, this one, you know, I should put this word here and the and be, oh, I changed this word. No, it was just pouring out. You know, it's an incredible, and this is something I encourage. Oh, I can't wait to send, and that's why I wanted to finish this section and then send you the translation of the trial of the Bab, because it's so interesting. And also because literally during the trial of the Blessed Bab, he stops during the trial and he's like, he raises his head, because this is recorded by 4 different individual eyewitnesses, okay? And so literally during the trial, he suddenly stops. The interrogator is asking him questions. And suddenly he says, okay, hold on a moment. He suddenly turns and then he's like raises his head, like he suddenly, you know, gets inspiration coming from the, you know, on high. And he says, I want to say something. And then he suddenly reveals something just on that spot. And it's the most incredible, like little, you know, phrase, as they say. And it's just might be short, you know, and it's beautiful, right? But then the arrogance and not to be rude, but imbecilic attitude of these interrogators they suddenly say, well, that's not the right grammar. That's not, what are you saying? What are you, what does that even mean, But they don't understand the context, the metaphor, the connotation, how it's related to this or that. So they say, what is this nonsense that you're saying, but it's every one of these, just like if, His Holiness Baha'u'llah is revealing, on the banks of the Tigris, the hidden words, right? And he is stating how incredible are the hidden words, right? And he is stating these incredible hidden words, these aphorisms and metaphors and homily statements that have so much ethical and moral power. And then someone just, casually hearing His Holiness Baha'u'llah saying, oh, son of man. Who's the son of man? What is Baha'u'llah talking about, right? Oh, son of being. Which one of your sons are you talking about being, Oh, son of dust, and so, this is, the kind of things that they were saying to the Blessed Bab, when he was suddenly revealing these short statements. So, I mean, incredible. It was just pouring out, and it's literally, as they say, on the fly. It was not premeditated. The Holy Spirit, the most great essence, was so is so infused into the Sayyid Muhammad Ali that they are one and the same. And so at any time, any moment, it's literally the light pour forth. And so that's what was happening. Literally during the trial, he would suddenly stop and reveal. And it's so cool to read it, the account of that, because you get to see, per se, a glimpse, because we don't have a lot of glimpses in English from how the Blessed Bab obviously was revealing. We have some glimpses of His Holiness Baha'u'llah and talking, for example, Edward Granville Brown when he was in, and a few other accounts where, when they entered his presence and, people would fall down prostrate, during the revelation writing or whatever, or the periods like that, right? But we don't have very few of the Blessed Bab. And so, but it's very interesting and to see that. So I'm going to share that to the class so you can see that. Anyway, scrolling back, the volume of the revelation pouring out from the Blessed Bab. Remember, there was that quote where two of the letters of all knowledge prior to the Blessed Bab had been revealed. And then from that point of the coming of the Blessed Bab, 25 letters had been revealed, right? So what an incredible amount that had been, per se, opened up, given access to. Not that it's now all available, but had now been accessible. It's not now, you can't suddenly say all the knowledge is there now, but it's now made available for now to be accessed. And how do we access it? Through education, the development of the sciences and the arts and everything. So this is through the coming of the revelation of the Blessed Bab. So this was an incredible, significant revelation, and one of these significant proofs, this is where we're coming from. S.L. Monty says, the volume of the writings of the Bab and the speed at which he composed elaborate commentaries, prayers, and expositions with no premeditation are considered as significant proofs of his sublime station. And this is also with Baha'u'llah, right? Please, Riaz John, you have a hand.
Thank you so much. Thank you. In both alphabets, Persian and Arabic, many of the letters of the alphabet have dots. But my understanding, I've heard, of course, I've heard that in general, the Bab did not adhere to the use of these dots.
Mm.
That makes it extremely difficult for people to read the writings of the original writings of the Bab because of the lack of dots. Now, in this sample, again, we see a very rarity of dots. Maybe there are a few initial dots, one or two or three, but the lines, those letters in each line, I feel they would have dots, but there are no dots.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah.
If you could elaborate on the issue of the lack of dots, the lack of use of dots in the Bab's style.
Honestly, this is a question for Dr. Bayat. So I will record this question. I am no Persian scholar. I am no Arabic scholar, but you're absolutely right. And this is probably one of the reasons also that they were critiquing the Blessed Bab on his grammar. And you will hear this also on the trial of the Bab. So the lack of dots, because, and saying, you're not spelling things correctly. You're making mistakes or whatever. And so you will see this in the trial of the Blessed Bab. But manifestation of God can choose exactly how he chooses to do whatever he chooses. And that is correct. So that is, if he says the sky is blue, it's blue. If he says it's red, manifestation of God. And that is our test. And so if we see, and so the reality is, that is the reality. And so this is how he chose it to be. And so as far as my answer, I'm no scholar on this subject. And so I could ask Dr. Bites this question, dear Riaz John, and see how he answers it. It will be very interesting on the aspect of grammar and dots in the writings of the Blessed Bab. All right. Moving on. So he himself bears witness to this fact. So this is Baha'u'llah. He himself bears witness to this fact by his statement. Verily, the equivalent of that which God revealed unto Muhammad during 23 years hath been revealed unto me within the space of 2 days and 2 nights. So this is the Blessed Bab speaking. He says what took 23 years to be in the Quran hath been revealed unto me, the Blessed Bab, within the space of 2 days and 2 nights. But he warns his followers. This is such an important warning, dear friends. No distinction is to be drawn between the two. He in truth hath power over all things. So the aspect of, one is greater than another, one supersedes another, there is none of that, okay? Every one of them is important. And so the reality is, I always want you to understand, and in the analogy, it's a very simple analogy, that your second grade teacher cannot be more important than your first grade teacher. They're all in the same school. And the reality is, you cannot think one is more important than the other. We love all our teachers, and they're all there for the purpose of our education and advancement. So the reality is, they have all come for the same purpose, the spiritual edification and advancement of mankind. So moving on, dear friends, let us go to our next slide. So in the Qayyum al-Asma, this is the book of names. And this is the Qayyum al-Asma is, if you recall, the book, that tablet of Joseph, the Surah of Joseph in the Qayyum al-Asma was the first that was revealed to Mullah Hussein, and this was in the Qayyum al-Asma. And so it is translated, parts of Qayyum al-Asma. Obviously not the whole Qayyum al-Asma is not translated authentically, authorized yet. But it's you can find it provisionally. But you can find part of it because the beloved guardian translated it, and it's in selections from the writings of the Bab. And this is found in selections from the writings of the Bab. This is where he says, "Verily, we made the revelation of verses to be a testimony for our message unto you." So this revelation of all these messages is a proof, a testimony unto you. He then challenges his ecclesiastical opponents by asking them, "Can ye produce a single letter to match these verses? Bring forth then your proofs, if ye be of those who can discern the one true God. I solemnly affirm before God, should all men and spirits combine to compose the like of one chapter of this book, they would surely fail, even though they were to assist one another." And the Blessed Bab in the trial says a very same statement. If you, of all of you ecclesiasticals combine, you will not be able to even produce one chapter, let alone one verse of this book. Very amazing, very powerful statement from the Blessed Bab. And here you can see this is a pentacle. It's an original tablet of the Blessed Bab in his own writing. And this is a whole tablet here. It's a whole tablet. Okay, and just making sure so let me make sure I'm on the right slide. Yep, excellent. Oh, excellent. Okay, Rios John, if you could kindly read this one for us.
Abundance of his revelation. Vahid, Sayyid Yahya Darabi, was present when the Bab revealed the commentary on the Surah of Qawsar for him. He has recorded his experience. It was still early in the afternoon when the Bab requested Haji Mirza Sayyid Ali to bring his pen case and some paper. He then started to reveal his commentary on the Surah of Qawsar. How am I to describe this scene of inexpressible majesty? Verses streamed from his pen with a rapidity that was truly astounding. The incredible swiftness of his writing, the soft and gentle murmur of his voice, and the stupendous force of his style amazed and bewildered me. He continued in this manner until the approach of sunset. He did not pause until the entire commentary of the surah was completed. He then laid down his pen and asked for tea. Soon after, he began to read it aloud in my presence. My heart leaped madly as I heard him pour out in accents of unutterable sweetness those treasures enshrined in that sublime commentary.
Beautifully read, Rios John. Thank you. So here, verses were streaming from his pen with such rapidity that it was truly astounding. This incredible swiftness. And he was writing from, I think, from morning till night. This is what he's saying, you know, he did not pause until the entire commentary of the surah was completed. And so this commentary is on the chapter 108 from the Quran, the Surah Al-Qasar. Is that correct, Riaz John? Qasar? You said it so nicely.
Yes, Qawsar.
Qasar.
It's a qe in the throat. It's a sound that's generated in the throat.
Is the Qaf sound? Is it the Qaf?
It's a qaf.
Qaf, yes.
Yeah,
Qasar.
Qawsar, yeah.
Qasar. Okay,
sound,
excellent.
Yeah.
So, yes, and what an incredible revelation of outpouring. And you can hear Vahid's recollection. This is his recording, and this is recorded in the Dawnbreakers. Vahid was saying, my heart leaped madly as I heard him pour out in accents of unutterable sweetness. This is as the Blessed Bab is now reading what was just revealed. And as you recall, sorry, right, Riaz John, please.
I must apologize. I'm reading, the insert, Surah Al-Qawsar. It's K as in K, as in king. When I read sorry, I was mistaken. But by reading the actual name in Arabic, it's K.
Not Qaf, it's
not
K.
Qaf. K, Qawsar.
Qawsar.
Yeah,
okay, excellent. K. Thank you so much, Riaz.
Oh, and the English transliteration, there's a K. Yes, Surah Al-Qawsar.
Qawsar.
Now the TH is a transliteration of the sound is S.
Qawsar.
Although that's a system. In the system of in that system of transliteration, and the Arabic pronunciation is TH, Qawsar, but the letter.
Yeah, there's generally when it's like that TH. Yeah. The proper is that there's an accent mark under the TH.
Yeah, and in the Arabic line above, there's towards the end of that line there is a letter with 3 dots on top. That's S. One of the S sounds. So it's Qawsar.
This one.
Yeah, that one. That letter.
Right.
Yes, that's S. Now there are other letters with the sound S. There is sin, there is sought, and there is this one.
Right.
I forgot the name of this one, but yes, but this is one of the S letters.
Thank you so much.
Qawsar. Yes, thank you.
Qawsar.
I apologize.
No, that's excellent. All these insights are great. They're all learning. We're together. Thank you so much. Okay. And moving along. So that was paragraph 58. So now we go to 59. In paragraph 59, His Holiness Baha'u'llah states that the degree of self-sacrifice demonstrated by the followers of the Blessed Bab is another testimony, is another proof to the truth of the revelation of the Blessed Bab. For the sake of their beloved, they gave their lives when they were asked to either deny their belief or face death. So this was another proof, Baha'u'llah stating. The short period of the ministry of the Bab is rich in heroic acts manifested by his followers. And in particular, these events were intensified after the death of Muhammad Shah. Nasiruddin Shah, the new 17-year-old king, left all his affairs in the hands of the arbitrary, bloodthirsty, reckless Amir Nizam, Mirza Taghi Khan, who ordered the immediate persecution and punishment of the Babis across the country. And this resulted in a systematic campaign by civil and ecclesiastical powers against the cause of the Bab. That was from the Beloved Guardian, and we find that in God Passes By. And so here you can see on the right, this is actually a public beheading of one of the Babis. And dear friends, I just want to make a point. One of the reasons, and this is very similar to the public lynchings in the United States. Why did they do public lynchings? Why did they do public executions? To create fear. This is a form of open terrorism that the government, the authorities were doing to crush, per se, this religious movement. And in the United States, why they did public lynchings was to crush any opposition to the powers in authority, namely the white population. So if you crushed any hope the African Americans had to per se rise up, that's why they were doing public lynchings, and the very same as they were doing public executions here to crush any hope of the Babis, as well as crush any possibility of anyone helping them. And so this was what how they were trying to stop the rise of the Babi faith, but it massively failed. Actually, the faith of the Bab continued to spread and spread like wildfire. So moving on. At the extent of the havoc caused by such an order, the Beloved Guardian writes that in remote and isolated centers, the scattered disciples of a persecuted community were pitilessly struck down by the sword of their foes, while in centers where large numbers had congregated, measures were taken in self-defense, which, misconstrued by a cunning and deceitful adversary, served in their turn to inflame still further the hostility of the authorities and multiply the outrages perpetrated by the oppressor. In the east, at Sheikh Tabarsi, in the south, in Nairis, and in the west, in Zanjan, and in the capital itself, massacres, upheavals, demonstrations, engagements, sieges, acts of treachery proclaimed in rapid succession. The violence of the storm which had broken out and exposed the bankruptcy and blackened the annals of a proud yet degenerate people. And here, this is just about 1850, and we know what happened in 1850, July 9th, the martyrdom of the Blessed Bab. So this is right around 1850. This here you can see right in the dead center, right beside this gentleman with a tall fez. To his left, to his right, our left, you see the body of a newly martyred Babi. And they're proudly showing it at the entrance to a village in Iran. And if you look, you cannot even make out a face on it. And if you look closely, the torso area is so destroyed in it, and this body is encircled in ropes. And so this is how they were treating the Babis, so horrendously, and torturing them. So I have some. I wanted to capture just a few more pictures of this time period. Obviously, is to give you a bit more account of what was happening, where His Holiness Baha'u'llah was talking about the heroism, the self-sacrifice. So here's a picture of Tehran. This picture is a drawing of the Sabze Maidan. And this is where many Babis were slain in this marketplace. This is a site where many Babis were slain. And first among them were the 7 martyrs of Tehran. And these were heroic believers like their Babi companions across the country. They did not adopt the Islamic practice of kitman, literally concealment, which allows a believer to conceal his faith when facing religious persecution. And the 7 martyrs of Tehran accepted with gladness to be martyred. They were beheaded. These were 7 martyrs of Tehran. So this is the Sabze Maidan. It's one of the sites of persecution. Many of you may know the story of Haji Suleiman Khan. This is recorded in the Dawnbreakers. Interestingly, I actually found this newspaper clipping because it's one thing, you know, dear friends, to read the Dawnbreakers and you're like, oh, okay, that's what the Baha'is are saying. But it's another thing to actually find it in a newspaper clipping, the exact same thing that is in the writings. So this is from the newspaper clipping, the Daily Delta, published in New Orleans, Louisiana, 11th November, 1852 on Thursday. This is page 2. So the man accused of being the chief instigator of the late attempt to assassinate the Shah of Persia was punished thus. He was seized, his body carefully drilled with a knife in parts which would not at the moment cause death. Pieces of lighted candles were then introduced into the holes and thus illuminated, carried in procession throughout the bazaar, and finally conveyed to the town gates, and there cleft in twain like a fat ram. So this was the individual that was accused of being attempting to assassinate the Shah of Persia. Okay? This person wasn't Haji Suleiman Khan, but this was the person. But what happened to Haji Suleiman Khan? Very similar in the sense of the level of torture. What happened? Never so long as my lifeblood continues to pulsate in my veins, shall I be willing to recant my faith in my beloved. This world, which the commander of the faithful has likened to carrion, will never allure me from my heart's desire. He was asked to determine the manner in which he wished to die. So they asked him, would you like to die? He chose how he wanted to die. He says, pierce holes in my flesh, was the instant reply. And in each wound, place a candle. Let 9 candles be lighted all over my body, and in this state, conduct me through the streets of Tehran. Summon the multitude to witness the glory of martyrdom, so that the memory of my death may remain imprinted in their hearts, and help them as they recall the intensity of my tribulation to recognize the light I have embraced. After I have reached the foot of the gallows and have uttered the last prayer of my earthly life, cleave my body in twain and suspend my limbs on either side of the gate of Tehran, that the multitude passing beneath it may witness to the love which the faith of the Bab has kindled in the hearts of his disciples, and may look upon the proofs of their devotion. So here you can see he was seized, his body carefully drilled with a hole in parts. Lighted candles were introduced in this hole, led through the bazaar, and then cleft in twain like a fat ram. This is how they treated Haji Suleiman Khan. Neiris, another site of persecution, atrocities. This is Wahid's house. There's a drawing of Wahid's house. From the 27th of May to the 21st of June, 1850, secular and clerical forces joined against the peaceful Babis of Neiris. This is a town in the province of Fars, to prevent them from professing and spreading their new faith. The Babis were led by Sayyid Yahya Darabi. This is Wahid, surname Wahid, the peerless by the Bab. One of the most distinguished theologians of Persia who had been sent by the Shah to interview the Bab and subsequently embraced his message. The Bab's followers were ultimately slaughtered by the ruthless forces. So I again encourage every one of you, go back to the Dawnbreakers, right? Go back, revisit it. These, it's wonderful seeing these accounts, and this is your history. This is your history, and so go back, go visit it and reread it. And, why did the beloved guardian take all that time to not only translate the Dawnbreakers, but edit it and bring it out? It's not only was to show the dispensation of the Bab and how it transformed the peoples that were coming from such a degenerate population, but it was the transformation of those peoples into such heroic and self-sacrificing, loving servants. So this is the blessed, the followers of the blessed Bab. So I encourage you to reread the Dawnbreakers, maybe just even a bit here and there, but regularly. So what it does is it creates a fire and excitement about your history. So let us carry on. So this is the Hadiqatul Rahman. I'm going to go to my dear friend Riaz John, who's much better at Persian than I am. So Riaz John, could you pronounce this for us?
Let me try. The Hadi. Where the heads of the martyrs of Neiris lie buried. The Rahman, yes, but the Hadiqatu, that word I'm not familiar with.
Sounds good to me.
Hadiqatur Rahman.
Hadiqatur Rahman. Okay, so this is the site where the heads of the martyrs of Neiris lie buried. Okay, so this is, you find this also in the Dawnbreakers. We go to another site, Zanjan. So here is a picture. You can see the picture. This is the, as you all remember, Effie, that we studied, the immortal photographer. She took all these great pictures that we find in the Dawnbreakers. And this is a drawing that we see on the left. So it's someone has drawn this picture on the bottom right and made it larger. So as a drawing. This is the square in Zanjan. And from May 1850 to January 1851. The combined forces of the state and the Zanjan clergy attacked the followers of the Blessed Bab in this city. So all of this is around the same time. Remember, when was the Blessed Bab martyred? Anyone? The exact date? July 9th, 1850. Okay, at the hour of noon. So July 9th, 1850. So all of these attacks, Nayriz, Zanjan, all of these attacks are around the same period. All these forces are happening around the same period. We can see from May 1850 to January 1851, same period of time roughly. All of these attacks, the forces of the state were all heightened to go attack and per se attempt to wipe out the faith of the Blessed Bab. So this is how was happening in Zanjan. Courageously were led by a scholar known as Hojat. Now Hojat, only second per se to Wahid. Hojat was an incredibly knowledgeable scholar and he had embraced the new teachings of the Blessed Bab. And the Babis defended themselves valiantly against the brutal enemy, but eventually were ultimately tragically killed in this onslaught. And this was a vicious attack in Zanjan. And encourage again to read the account in the Dawnbreakers, the attack that occurred in Zanjan. Also, the Nayriz upheaval. So here's an illustration of a Baha'i being murdered. This is from a Persian magazine, 1911. So this was, they were publishing it. They were proud of it. This was in their common publications. This was in 1911. All right. It is important to note that all of these individuals were forced to choose between recanting their faith or death. And those who were killed at the hands of the enemies of the faith accepted martyrdom in preference to renouncing their beloved. However, this did not mean that they volunteered for martyrdom, nor had suicidal tendencies. A lot of these people they weren't suicidal. It's not like they wished, death upon themselves. They were not recanting their faith. So there's a picture here of believers gathering around the body of a martyr. You can see the body of the martyr where my mouse is over. And these are a picture of a band full of believers. And in the very back, you could see some guards holding guns. Okay, Riaz John, please.
Just my personal reflection about the rapidity of the events. As you mentioned, 1844, the declaration of the Bab. Then 6 years later, 1850, his martyrdom.
Right.
And several years later, the intimation of the mission of Baha'u'llah in the Shia. And then 10 years later, the public declaration of Baha'u'llah at the Garden of Rizwan in 1863. So it's a very rapid progression of events. So I feel this, what the Bab did as being a young man, he produced this explosive revolution in human thinking, in human knowledge, that rapidly gave rise to these rapidly evolving events. And just 119 years later from his declaration in 1963, results in the election of the Universal House of Justice, a world institution, in the year 1963, which is only 119 years after his declaration.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, there's a parallel in the explosive accomplishment of humankind, because just in 1969, men were walking on the moon. That's only 125 years after the Bob's declaration. So this is a very fast-moving evolution of events. Of course, the next morning after the Bob's declaration, communication jumped to the speed of light.
Right.
So this is totally in the history of mankind. This is a very, historians later may conclude that this was an explosive period in human history. Just my personal impressions.
No, you're absolutely spot on. From the period, really, even right before even the declaration of the Bab, to all the way to current, we're still in this explosion. The sciences are still, new discoveries, new all the time, and it was. I have to send this article. There was an article in the 1800s where they thought they had discovered everything. There was nothing more to be discovered. It was in the 1800s. And this is right before the declaration of the Bab. And it was, I think it was around 1830s or so. They were said they had discovered all the major discoveries. And so there was nothing more major to be discovered. And then it's quite humorous. And it was, I saw this in a presentation that was on the exponential, because it truly is an exponential growth in the world of matter, what has happened in the sciences, in the arts, since the coming of these twin manifestations. And this happens every time a manifestation of God appears. There is a sudden infusion, an explosion of energy into the world. And this is the creative word, the energies that occur, that is released and creates new potential within man. And so man now has this per se higher capacity to unlock. So now the capacity is there. So now through education and advancements in sciences, and we have the ability to access all of those new discoveries. Prior to the manifestation, there was not a possibility to talk about aviation. There was not a possibility to talk about, cars or RVs. It wasn't there. You can't talk about it because that was not available or in the world of science, just because as I said earlier, 25 letters have suddenly been unlocked. Prior was only 2 letters. And so now the world has been opened up. And this is, it's not just, as dear Riaz John mentioned, it's not just the sciences and the arts. It's everything the kingdom of knowledge has been made available to humanity. This is an incredible gift that the manifestations of God, when they come and appear. Any other thoughts before we move on, dear friends? All right. So, dear friends, we go to paragraph 60.
I want to summarize something.
Okay, go ahead, dear Tesfai. Go ahead. I knew you were going to say something.
Yeah, so far that we read a lot of things now, and then a lot of things in history going on, and then it says about sacrifices. You see that there's a lot of believers, the Babis or whatever it is, the Baha'is, they suffer a lot during the heroic age of all time. And then the new generations right now, we, and then the next after us, what do we learn from all these sacrifices of all downbreakers histories and all these things? Because the faith is need sacrifices at that time, and people, they sacrifice their life. But now for the new generations, we don't know that much about it. And then the Baha'i faith, when we declare and become Baha'i, it is not easily simply as a gift that the Lord is given to us. We have to remember all those people's sacrifices for it. And for us, go out and teach the faith. And then we can't go and teach because that is sacrifice. And then in the other side, you have to pay for the contributions of the faith and all these things and the huhulla and everything. But are we really responsible for these things? How much we are strong and dedicated like the past heroes? That is what I'm trying to collect in my mind and then see what I can do right now. And then from all these things, we learn a lot of things to be done. And this history that we go through it, and all these great people sacrifice their names we are studying and coming like that. And then we have to get some insights and then learn individually and then get something out of it. That's the point that I try to clarify. And then so we need to be energetic and then ready to do something before this short life is over.
You're
And
absolutely
then
right.
my second point is, this one is a kind of question, but so Iran was under the monarchy, I think during the Nasruddin Shah, he's a king, right? Is that king is to be a absolute monarchy, or I think it looked like maybe absolute monarchy instead of constitutional monarchy.
No, it
So
was absolute. It's more of a totalitarian regime in that sense. It was a dictatorship, but it was a absolute monarchy.
So that's what I was thinking too. So now, when you come to the history of Persia, the monarchy is ended on him. After that, no monarchy, right? If I'm not
It
mistaken.
was from the point of 1979, the Iranian Revolution. But even before he also confided in his religious authorities. So some would say it wasn't a totalitarian regime, absolute monarchy. It was, kind of what is it? Where they have a bit theocratic, absolute monarchy, because the religious figures also had, sway in the decision making of the absolute monarchy. Now in that country, it's a theocratic dictatorship, with the current regime. So we don't want to get into all of these type of discussions, but yeah, the aspect of how that country has evolved over time and with its political situations and involvements, it's very sad, and hopefully it will evolve sooner than later, as they say, into a wonderful place.
So right now, sorry to
please,
interrupt you. Right now is the way I see is because what's called Ayatollah or something like that is leading the country, means he's the head of the religion, right? In the meantime, and then he is also politically, also he control everything. Is that right? Or
the term Ayatollah is a title. It means sign of God, Ayatollah. It's the highest ranking title for a religious figurehead, and so it is. And so yes, the current Ayatollah Ayatollah Khamenei, he is considered, in essence, not only the religious voice of the peoples, he's also the voice of authority, political authority, because it is considered really a theocratic dictatorship in that sense in that country. So it's absolute and quite harsh regime. And so that is all I can say on that subject. I don't want to talk too much more on it.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah. I just want to know. That's why I just said.
Thank you. Excellent. So moving on, dear friends, let us go to paragraph 60 of Dispensation of Baha'u'llah. And we find paragraph 60 is right in the middle of page 125. This is where the beloved guardian is saying, wishing to stress the sublimity of the Bab's exalted station. All right. So in paragraph 60, the beloved guardian is now quoting Baha'u'llah's statement that it is impossible to fully understand the nature of the revelation of the Bab. And as of evidence of this, Baha'u'llah refers to a hadith. And if you recall from our study earlier, the hadiths are sayings and recordings of either in the life of the Prophet or the Imams, are the hadiths. Okay, so there's in one of the hadiths, it says that had been recorded in 3 reliable Islamic books. So it's not just one Islamic book. There's this random hadith. This has been recorded in 3 reliable Islamic books, including the Bihar, Al-Anvar, Al-Jamia, Lid-Durar, Akhbar, Al-Amir, Al-Asar. That's a long name, okay? And then there was also recorded in the Avalim and the Yanbu. Those are shorter names, okay? The beloved guardian refers to this hadith briefly in paragraph 9. The Bahar al-Anvar is the encyclopedia, the one that was really long name. That one is the Encyclopedia of Shia Theology. And this was written by Allama Majlisi in 26 volumes. This is this guy. And I'm sure he was kneeling down because his back was really tired from writing 26 volumes. So, but no, I'm joking. But really 26 volumes. He wrote the whole history of Shia theology, this guy. Quite impressive. So that in paragraph 9 of the dispensation, talking about, I'm going to go straight to it. So this is the comparison where it says, I believe talking about the knowledge have two letters have been revealed, and then 25 letters have come. So I'm just going to go to that. So this is what it's talking about, the Bahar al-Anvar. So I'm just going to go. The Avalim, which is the other book, is a book by Sheikh Nurullah Bahraini. And this one consists of 100 volumes covering various traditions as well as Islamic history. So this is the second one that has this same hadith in it.
I have a question for you over here.
Pause. Hold your question so I can cover this topic before we get lost in it. Okay. And the third one is the Yanbu. So the Yanbu is a book by Jafar ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq, and this is commonly known as Jafar al-Sadiq or simply Sadiq. He was one of the sons of Muhammad. He was a Shia Muslim scholar who lived in the 3rd century of the Islamic era. So these are the 3 books, hadith, that books that this hadith is in. Okay, and this is what this hadith is. According to this hadith, knowledge is 27 letters, and all that the prophets have revealed are 2 letters thereof. And no man thus far hath known more than these 2 letters. But when the Qayyam shall arise, he will cause the remaining 25 letters to be made manifest. And so we mentioned all the locations, the Yanbu, the Avalim, all these other places in that this hadith is in. And the remaining knowledge and mysteries of the universe that will be revealed after the appearance of the promised Qayyam will be equivalent to 25 letters. And these numbers, they indicate the intensity of the revelation of the Qayyam, namely the Blessed Bab, and consequently its significance as well as its impact on the world of creation. Okay, Riaz John, then we go to testify because I want he also had mentioned something. Riaz John, you're first. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. This issue of the remaining 25 letters, we should, I mean, it would help us to almost memorize the exact text. I'm reading on the 5th line. He will cause the remaining 25 letters to be made manifest. So as you were saying before, it's not that these 25 are immediately released and exposed in the world. He will cause the remaining 25 letters to be manifest. So this gives to me personally the understanding that he will cause, and we should probably memorize some of these words. He will cause the remaining 25 letters to be made manifest.
Absolutely, yeah.
This will help us in our understanding. Another thing that we can help us understand the impact of the Bab's revelation is the issue of cycles. When Baha'u'llah says it's impossible to understand the full nature of the Bab's revelation, I feel again personally that this is because the Bab terminated one universal cycle, the Adamic cycle, and at the same time inaugurated a whole new universal cycle, which is a cycle of fulfillment that is promised in the scriptures of the past. And this cycle is it's a cycle of fulfillment. And Shalifendi says no less than 500,000 years. So this is what the Bab did to inaugurate this new universal cycle of fulfillment. Again, this word fulfillment, this has very deep implications. Fulfillment of what? Fulfillment of everything. So just my personal.
No, you're absolutely spot on. Excellent sharing. Thank you very much, Riazja. Tesfa, you had a comment, please.
Yeah, mine is a very short thing, but I don't want to take your time because according to the Holy Quran book, is it hadith is a holy book? Is it only Quran, right?
No, hadith is part of, it is also considered holy too. It is not just the Holy Quran, as the hadith is part of it is the sayings and life of the Prophet Muhammad as well as the Imams. So it is also per se part of the scriptural importance.
So who approved it? This one is Muhammad approved this hadith, or just individuals or imams are making it? I just want to make clear that's my question. Because the Holy Quran is come from Muhammad, it's a revelation. But this one is to be some scholars or imams or whatever people wrote, and then descriptions or whatever they feel they put here. But is Muhammad approved this or just only
No,
scholars?
these are all in these are from individuals, from the life and teachings, and from not only from the Prophet, from Muhammad, as well as from life and teachings of the Imams. So these are my words fail me right now, but
I know the validity is very.
But they're both part and parcel of Islamic theology. They're all sacred. So in that sense, as to your question of, being sacred, is all part of what Islam is. It's hadith as well as Quran.
There are another books also, they call it Sunnah.
Absolutely, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see here, I got this image. This is as to what Riaz Jan was, stressing, that he will cause the remaining 20 and 5 letters to be made manifest. And this is another translation. This one says, knowledge consists of 20 and 7 letters, and all the knowledge brought by the prophets only comprise 2 out of the 27. When our Qayyam, the blessed Bab, rises, he will just introduce the others, another 25 parts of knowledge, and will spread this knowledge amongst all people. And he will add to the 2 parts so that the 27 parts are completed. So he's just going to introduce another 25 parts of knowledge. So as the parts, he will cause the remaining 25 letters to be made. He's just introducing it. But does the world have now suddenly all the knowledge of the universe and everything? No. All right, we carry on. We're almost at the end of this part. So this is in paragraph 61. In paragraph 61, because this is through paragraph, I think this part is 57 through 61. In paragraph 61, the beloved guardian Shalifendi is now citing a statement from Baha'u'llah that is a touching tribute to the Blessed Bab. This is such a beautiful statement, and I'm going to read it for so you all hear this. This is on page, let me see here, I have it. 100. Okay, here we go, 61. This is such an incredible statement. This brings tears to my eyes. It says, of all the tributes which Baha'u'llah's unerring pen has chosen to pay to the memory of the Bab, his best beloved, the most memorable and touching is this brief yet eloquent passage, which so greatly enhances the value of the concluding passages of that same epistle. Amidst them all, he writes, referring to the afflictive trials and dangers besetting him in the city of Baghdad, we stand life in hand, wholly resigned to his will, that perchance, through God's loving kindness and grace, this revealed and manifest letter, namely Baha'u'llah, may lay down his life as a sacrifice in the path of the primal point, the most exalted word, by him at whose bidding the Spirit have spoken. But for this yearning of our soul, we would not for one moment have tarried any longer in this city. So here, these are my notes. So we'll share this. In paragraph 61, the beloved guardian is citing a statement from Baha'u'llah that is a touching tribute to the Blessed Bab. This statement revealed in the concluding paragraphs of the Kitab Iran. is part of a section in which Baha'u'llah recounts the condition of the Babi community in Baghdad at the time of his return from Suleimaniye and the tribulations that he experienced as a result. This is the complete paragraph. If you recall, His Holiness Baha'u'llah had taken, I would say, a sojourn for 2 years to Suleimaniye as a per se, and to escape the terrible situation that the Babis and the follower and the covenant breakers had created, the disunity and the animosity. So His Holiness Baha'u'llah left to Suleimaniye. And so he returned. On his return from Suleimaniye, this is what he wrote. He says, "What pen can recount the things we beheld upon our return? 2 years have elapsed, during which our enemies have ceaselessly and assiduously contrived to exterminate us, whereunto all witness. Nevertheless, none amongst the faithful have risen to render us any assistance, nor did anyone feel inclined to help in our deliverance. Nay, instead of assisting us, what showers of continuous sorrows their words and deeds have caused to rain upon our soul. Amidst them all, we stand life in hand, wholly resigned to his will, that perchance, through God's loving kindness and his grace, this revealed and manifest letter, namely Baha'u'llah, may lay down his life as a sacrifice in the path of the primal point, namely the Blessed Bab, the most exalted word, by him at whose bidding the Spirit have spoken. But for this yearning of our soul, we would not for one moment have tarried any longer in this city. Sufficient witness is God unto us." So this is the extract from Kitab Iran. And as you all know, the Kitab Iran was written to the uncle of the Blessed Bab. And it was questions that were written to Baha'u'llah about who is this Bab? So Baha'u'llah wrote Kitab Iran to demonstrate the proofs of the revelation of the Bab. And that was one of the primary reasons he wrote Kitab Iran, was to demonstrate the proofs of the Blessed Bab. Please, Riaz Jah.
Thank you. The picture, the image we see on the right,
Yes.
the pen used by Baha'u'llah,
Yes.
just to remind us of the primitive environment in which this colossal revelation took place. This pen is a bamboo pen. It's made of bamboo.
Right.
That you would carve with a sharp pocket knife. You would carve it. So on the right, you see that it's carved into a point.
Exactly.
Into a fine point, and then dipped into ink. And at the top, there is a spoon, ink spoon, where you would stir the ink. But this is the primitive environment in which this new universal cycle took its beginnings. A bamboo, a pen, the revelation of God is recorded with a bamboo pen, a strand of bamboo that you carve with your knife. And I used to carve these myself when I was in elementary school in Tehran. This was an art that every student needs to acquire, to carve these pens. out of bamboo. So just to clarify what we are dealing with.
Yeah.
And today we have what? And I don't even want to go into the technological marvels that we have.
Yeah, and we're only coming up 200, just had the 200th anniversaries of the, birth of the Blessed Bab and Baha'u'llah. Now think about when we reach the 1,000-year mark, coming up of the dispensation, because it says it will not be another manifestation for at least 1,000 years, right? Now think about 1,000 years, and we got at least 800 more years. And how is information now, transmitted? It's an incredible, as dear Riaz John is saying, information was being captured by a bamboo reed pen with ink pots. Now, terabytes of information, can be passed in less than nanoseconds. Think about how much information and manifestation of God will pour out in 800 or so years. It will be so, it's going to be so exciting in the future. But the most important point is, of course, terabytes could be poured out. But the point is, will humanity have reached a higher capacity level to be able to take that added, ocean that will be coming? Because yes, our ability to capture more information has increased in the last 100 and some odd years, right? But has our spiritual capacity vastly improved in the last 100 or some years? We could say yes, in some places, yes, it's improved. But also in many places, it's still not that much improved, and we got to move as a whole species. Yes. So, all right, we're getting to the close of our session. So we've got a few more slides, and then, so dear friends, hold on to your hands or questions or whatever, so we can just finish this part up, and then we'll go close it down for this evening. So this is the sacrifice for the primal point. And according to the beloved guardian, His Holiness Baha'u'llah was saddened by the demoralization and degradation of the Babi community, to the extent that he refused for some time to leave his house, except for his visits to Constancy and for his occasional meetings with a few of his friends who resided in that town and Baghdad. So His Holiness Baha'u'llah had a house in Baghdad, and he very rarely left his home in Baghdad. His Holiness Abdul Baha was the one that really tended to the affairs and protected Baha'u'llah. It was really the sufferings, the demoralization of the Babi community and the degradation that was really saddening, and also the attacks of the covenant breakers, as well as the effects of all of this, was really affecting the heart and mentality of the friends in and around Baha'u'llah, as well as Baha'u'llah chose not to leave his house in Constancy as well as in Baghdad. So Constancy is now a neighborhood of Baghdad. It's about 5 kilometers, about 3 miles northwest of the city center. Here's an old picture. I found this online. This is about 1917. It looks obviously a little bit different. Not too much. Nothing too much changes in these countries. But this is kind of what it looks like in 1917. So at the time of Baha'u'llah, mainly Persians inhabited the town, and the 2 Qazims were the 7th and the 9th Imams. That's why it's called Constancy. There was the 7th and the 9th Imams were buried here. So there we are, dear friends. That is our covering paragraphs 57 through 61. So our next section we'll cover next week will be the last set covering the Blessed Bob, which will cover paragraph 50. Let me see, it was all the way up to 56, 60, 61. So it'll be 62 all the way to 67, 62 through 67. So from paragraph 62, it starts, dearly beloved friends. It starts at the top of page 126. Okay. So it says, dearly beloved friends. And whenever the beloved guardians now goes, dearly beloved friends, is kind of a transitionary paragraph, right? So he's transitioning again. So that is, we go from paragraph 62 to paragraph 67, where the beloved guardian is now per se closing out his thesis on the station and uniqueness of the Blessed Bob, because this section is called the Bob. Okay, so this is the section called the Bob. So these are the last paragraphs in the set, and then we enter into a new one, Abdul Baha. So this will be the next section. So we'll finish up next week the section on the Blessed Bob, and then we enter into Abdul Baha. Okay, so we've already covered Baha'u'llah. We've covered now finishing up the Blessed Bob, but then we enter into Abdul Baha, the center of the covenant. So, dear friends, what a pleasure. Thank you so much for another awesome night with you guys. And thanks be to Baha'u'llah, got better, and so I could be with you guys. And is there any questions before we have our closing prayer from our dear friend, Miss Darla, who will be sharing that prayer? Any other questions or insights from tonight?
I just want to clarify about the bamboo that is Mr. Riyaz is saying about it. When you go to the early civilization of human being, in early age, like in Mesopotamia and Egypt, they are writing with the bamboo. It's before Baha'u'llah. And then after that, they call it, Egyptians, they're using the papyrus for the paper. They call it the papyrus plant. And all those things are to be used during the Moses time, and then in Jesus times, and all those things. It is to be very common, even in the Muslim, in Muhammad too. So I think bamboo is one of the best things that to be go through the ink and then hold the ink and to good for writing or something like that. But I don't know the wisdom or the secret behind that, but it's very common.
Rios John was not saying anything bad against it. It was just...
No, he didn't say anything. I'm just telling that before that also they're using bamboo. It's not only begin by Baha'u'llah. That's why I'm just trying to clarify.
Sure.
Now,
Rios John, please.
Yes, just for us to correlate things, when we read the description of the declaration of the Bab, and he's revealing the surah of Joseph, the description says the shrill voice of his pen. This is actual. These bamboo pens, as you're writing, they produce this shrill sound.
Right.
So the pen is speaking, and the style of writing. I mean, you have to write it in a certain style, an artistic style. As when you employ an artistic style, especially, then these pens start speaking. They have a shrill, and
That's very true.
They add to the drama of writing that you can feel that the pen itself is speaking.
Yeah, especially with that rapidity, Rios John, with the ink, the pen, and then hitting the ink blot, and then, and it's like a whizzing sound almost, and it's incredible. Absolutely, yeah, the shrill voice of the pen. Yeah. Well, Rios John, Thank you, Tesfaye-Jan. Every one of you, thank you so much for being with us. Let us have our closing prayer, and I say good night to every one of you. So, Ms. Darla, let us have our closing prayer. Thank you so much, every one of you.
Thank you.
O God, my God, praise be unto thee for kindling the fire of divine love in the holy tree on the summit of the loftiest mount, that tree which is neither of the east nor of the west, that fire which blazed out till the flame of it soared upward to the concourse on high, and from it those realities caught the light of guidance and cried out, verily have we perceived a fire on the slope of Mount Sinai. O God, my God, increase thou this fire as day followeth day, till the blast of it setteth in motion all the earth. O thou, my Lord, kindle the light of thy love in every heart. Breathe into men's souls the spirit of thy knowledge. Gladden their breasts with the verses of thy oneness. Call thou to life those who dwell in their tombs. Warn thou the prideful. Make happiness worldwide. Send down thy crystal waters, and in the assemblage of manifest splendors, pass round that cup which is tempered at the camphor fountain. Verily thou art the giving, the forgiving, the ever bestowing. Verily thou art the merciful, the compassionate. Abdul-Baha.
Thank you so much, every one of you,
Thank
and
you.
wishing you all a wonderful week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Hello, Pa.
Thank you. All right.